Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Jocks of All Trades Random Fandom. I am your humble host, Luke. This is Brad, and Brad, why don't you introduce our special guest for us?
I'd love to. This is one of my really good friends, Cory. Cory, I would consider to be a very heavy connoisseur of board games. And we've been wanting to do this episode for a while. So I guess the thing is, there's so many different types of board games, and I know that your list is going to be so different from ours in like a really good way.
Yeah.
Do you kind of want to explain some of the different like subgenres of board game and like what makes you qualified to be our geek of the week here?
Honestly, to be the geek of the week, it really is. I got to give credit to the two people that I play board games with a lot. One is Derek Thompson and Andrew Garrison. So Andrew Garrison has about 200 games, and he has a board game table. If you didn't know that existed, it does. They are very expensive. And Derek is a professional board game reviewer, and he brings us 2 or 3 games. He's a professor at Taylor University. He brings us 2 or 3 games every week to review. So that means that I get to play a lot of unique games. So with that said, Brad, in my mind, there are 2 different types of games. There's something called a Euro game and something called an Ameritrash game. And it sounds as bad as it is, and it's true. So the Euro games are games that typically Europeans have developed, and the Ameritrash games are games that typically Americans come up with, and Europeans want to make fun of us. So Ameritrash games are games that are typically a group of people, 2 to whatever, and they tend to be very aggressive, like fighting against each other. And Euro games tend to be games where you're doing your own thing in your own little pocket, and you interact with each other, but you're doing your own thing. And at the end of the game, whoever gets the most points wins. So it's not very aggressive, and they're very 2 different types of games.
Huh. You know, because you've said that, and I know what they are, but hearing that explanation just made me think that one of my favorite games actually is a Euro game, and I'll explain.
Oh, okay.
But anyways,
Yes.
With that being said, Luke, have at it.
Okay, so here's how we like to do it here on Random Fandom. What we're going to do is we're going to give our top 5, starting with our number 5, and then we go up and to our number 1. But before we get to our number 1, between 2 and 1, we like to give a couple honorable mentions, and then we hit number 1 at the very end. So to get us started, Brad, why don't you give us your number 5 pick?
Oh, good. So the pandemic brought about board gaming really heavily for me again because you couldn't do anything, and I was living with my parents at the time. And I had read reviews about this game online, watched a couple things, went and bought it super cheap, super cheap. Brought it home, everyone played it. It's great. It's Villainous. And I really fell for Villainous because it falls under that list of, I guess it is a Euro game because no one is doing anything at the same time. Everyone has their own goals. Everyone interacts with each other in a way, but you are solely focused on doing what your villain does. I now own all 4 of the expansions. I'm looking at them out of the corner of my eye. Loved it, played it a bunch of times. Luke, you and I have had a bunch of really spirited games of Villainous.
Oh, yeah.
But where it'll come down to like one turn away.
Oh, yeah.
From one of us winning and somebody else will win. It's a really clever game. Anytime you slap Disney on something, it'll be okay. But they didn't have to go to the level that they did with Villainous, and they did, and I'm happy about it. So it's Villainous for me at 5.
That's a good game.
Yeah, it is a very good game. I really like it. Cory, why don't you give us your number 5 pick?
Okay, so my number 5 pick is a game called Avalon. I love that game because it's all about hidden identities and deception. And I don't know if I should even say this, but as a pastor, you want to be honest, you want to be truthful. Yeah. I love the fact that in Avalon, the whole goal of the game is to lie and deceive. and it just feels so good to be good at that. And that's the whole game. I mean, you're just trying. There's two different teams, and you don't know who's who, and you got to figure it out. It's a lot of deducing and trying to figure out who is who. That's a lot of fun.
That sounds amazing.
It is.
We played it.
We played it in college.
Yes.
Yeah. Hodson got together, and all of 3 North played a board game in one of those conference rooms. And I couldn't remember what it was until Cory. This was years later. You don't know this until you and I had a conversation. You explained what it was, and I was like, "Is it like night themed?" You're like, "Well, yeah." I'm like, "I think we played Avalon." Like, and I remember I really liked it, but I was not like smart.
I had
like, "Oh, what was that?"
No recollection.
Write it down and remember. Like, so yeah, Avalon's a good game.
Yeah, no, I'll need to go and recheck this out because watch, I'll remember it and I'll be like, oh my gosh,
I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. My list, I mean, I love board games, but my list is definitely going to probably be a little bit more vanilla than yours. This one is a family favorite of mine. We love, me and my family love playing this. I remember us playing it a lot when I was younger, but Ticket to Ride. I love this game because, you know, there are a bunch of different editions of it now. You have a Europe edition for it. You have the OG traditional version where you just go all across the United States. Well, lower 48 and some of Canada. And it's just a matter of putting together train routes all across, and you have to make sure that you connect some cities that you get on special cards. You have to collect cards to create routes, and then the person with the most points at the end wins. And so it's a really fun game, especially the banter that goes back and forth when, you know, you claim a route that someone else needed to complete their ticket. Now they have to create this massive detour all the way around. So it can get a little feisty, but it's really super fun, and I really enjoy it.
That was not vanilla. That was a good pick.
Okay.
Yeah,
It'll get vanilla later. Trust me.
All right.
Brad, why don't you give us your number 4 pick?
I'd love to. This game I was introduced to at Gen Con years ago. Oh gosh, I feel old now. But I remember they were playing like a massive, like human-sized version, and I was like, "What is this game?" And I came in and watched people play it, like pick it up and set it in Tokyo, and then start fighting all the monsters outside of Tokyo. And I was like, "This is like bonkers. I love this game." So I searched for it. I searched and searched and searched. I was like, "Where can I buy a copy of this game? Where can I buy a copy of this game?" Sure enough, I got to like the last portion of where like the game like vendors were, and I was like, "I want this game. I don't care how much it is. I will pay for it." And I've had it since. I love King of Tokyo. It's complex while remaining super simple. So simple. It is as easy as, do you want to be in Tokyo or not? There it is. And then you build a whole system around that. It's fantastic. King of New York is also fun. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to put King of New York or King of Tokyo. It kind of like both and, because you can't have one without the other. But I have to go with the OG. I have to go with King of Tokyo. That's what really sold me years and years and years ago. So that's my 4.
Nice pick. I've played that game before, and it is also super fun.
Yeah. I've also played the massive version in Gen Con, so who knows? Maybe we were nearby.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, Cory, your number 4, please.
My number 4. So this one I love a lot because it's a really good family pick. It's called Jamaica, and it's the whole thing about Jamaica is that it's lighthearted, but it's got a great theme. You're a pirate and you're racing around the map, and as you do it, you've got it. Hey, check that out. I hope that made your top 5, Brad. But yeah, that's a good one, and you shoot. It's so much fun. So much fun.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a fun game. No, pirates always, I mean, you have to do things really, really wrong to make pirates not fun.
That's right.
It's true.
All right. My number 4 pick. Let me see. Let me pull up my list again real quick. Okay, yeah. Here's where it gets vanilla. And although some people, they hear this name and they immediately shudder because they realize the fights that broke out during this game, the friendships that were lost during this game. I'm talking about the infamous Monopoly.
Oh, yeah. I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I personally liked playing this game because there's so much strategy that goes into it, but a good amount of luck too. And in that game, it is definitely better to be lucky than good. And that's the one. I think that's the one downfall of the game. But if you play your cards right, you can still manage your own destiny a ton. And so it's, everyone knows how Monopoly is played. A ton of people have different house rules. One of my personal favorite house rules is any cash that would go to the bank, you put in the middle, and the first person to get to free parking wins the jackpot. And I think that's a really fun way to add some spice to the game. So when I played, that's usually the house rules that I add. But yeah, that is my number 4 pick.
That's good.
All right. Brad, your number 3, please.
I scrounged some things, so I've decided what I'm going to do is to show you what I'm selecting, because sometimes it's cool to have the visual, and some people will go out and say, oh, I remember that picture, and buy it, if you're like me. But Blood Bowl Team Manager. I had no idea what this was. I knew nothing about Warhammer at the time. Knew nothing about that, other than just being a board game weirdo that liked football. And I looked at it and I was like, I have to have this game. And again, this was in 10 years. I bought this 10 years ago. Look at that. Oh, wow. Yeah. And I immediately fell in love with it. It was so weird because it's not just the games, you're the manager. So you have to direct how the games are played. You have to direct your roster. You have to direct like so many different, like itty bitty little things to play it. It is so unbelievably good. If you are looking for it, it was discontinued several years ago. It is now more of a collector's item. It will probably be expensive, but it is worth the price. How often did we play that in college, man?
Once or twice, definitely. We might have played it like 3 or 4 times.
Me, I know I played it a lot with Carter, and we just went all over the place with it. Oh, I just realized that's still up. Sorry. But it's a good game. There are expansions, which adds a lot of interesting fun to the game. Here's one of the things that I loved about this. Cheating is mandatory.
Oh.
You cannot play this game unless you cheat. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like you have to cheat. And sometimes it bites you. Sometimes you benefit. And it's a clever game style. I would like to bring it to board game night at some point and sit down and play it, but I know that hasn't quite happened with COVID and everything. But maybe once things clear up, I will bring it and experience it. It's a good game.
Yeah, definitely. I remember those days in Hudson. Those were fun days, and those games were always crazy.
I'm gonna do my 2 previous picks also while I'm here. So here's Anybody wants to know what Villainous looks like, you'll find it with the sickly green dark magic kind of look. And
they do have expansions, so
yes. A lot. I would pull out the expansions, but that's going to take a minute. King of Tokyo. I guess just look for the literal words King of Tokyo. I don't know how else to describe the box. That's for me in a lineup to identify somebody. I won't be any help to you. He was small and a boy. Anyways.
Alrighty. Cory, your number 3, please.
Okay, my number 3. I can't go wrong with this one because it won Game of the Year last year. And it's a card game. So I've always been big into card games. Rook, euchre, spades, hearts, hand and foot, canasta, just you name it. I love card games. And this one is as good or better than all of them put together. And it's called The Crew.
The Crew.
Yeah. So it's a cooperative taking game just like anything else, but what makes this game unique is that there are 50 missions and each mission changes the dynamic of the card game, and you work as a team to successfully defeat the mission. And it is so much fun, and there's already a second one that's come out. I don't know what it's called, maybe The Crew 2, but it's just come out recently and it is a hit. It's really good.
That's fun. I need to go check this out. The
Oh, yeah.
Crew. That's hilarious.
Let me put it this way. I'm not a card taking like card player, and they roped me into it, and I loved it.
It's fun. Yeah.
Okay, I will definitely need to look this up.
Yep.
All right, my number 3. It's been brought up already in this episode, but I really like it. Brad and I, you and I have had some crazy games played with this. A lot of times it has come down to the wire. I think it's always the ones I remember are always you're getting to victory just one turn before I can. And I'm getting kind of tired of it, but when I get back into town, we need to try it again. But Villainous, I absolutely love it because, again, I'm a Disney nerd. Whenever it's like, I'll be scrolling through YouTube and it'd be like, try to identify these 15 Disney songs, and more likely than not, within the first second of it playing, I can tell you which song it is.
You'll know it. Yep.
So yeah, no, I love the game. It's very, very creative how they did it, and I love it. It's like each villain that you can play in the game plays differently, and you have to bring an entirely different philosophy to each one you play through. And so I really, really enjoy it, and that's why it made the top 3 for me. All right, we're getting down to brass tacks. So, Brad, number 2, please.
Sure. If you like Clue and monster fighting and monster hunting, this is the game for you. We may have played this in college, Luke. I know I had it at that point. May not have, on the other hand, because it was hard to play with that version that they gave you. In the new version, because it's like D&D. You kind of have to be a DM in control of what happens to the monsters, investigators, all that stuff. Now there is a companion app that will do everything for you. And I love it. It makes it so much easier. Excuse me, I got to give this to myself before I show you what it is. It is H.P. Lovecraft's Mansions of Madness. It is a massive box. That was the only thing I kind of had a pain of like taking out. It comes with monster figurines, investigator figurines, and even better with Clue. Like why I said that, it's set in the 30s, or the 20s and 30s. So you're like no like laser swords or like anything crazy, and you got to fight these crazy monsters. If you're familiar with H.P. Lovecraft, or if not, I'll give you like a brief rundown on why he's cool. Stephen King is a name that probably everyone knows. Stephen King's inspiration came from H.P. Lovecraft, who was the original crazy horror, like out there kind of writer. So I fell in love with H.P. Lovecraft through these games, because there's also Arkham Horror. There's all kinds of different board games that are in that same rhythm. But I only really liked Mansions of Madness because it changes. Oh, that's right. Every time you play the game knows, like if you play the same storyline again, it'll change it. So you'll never get the same game twice. Yeah, that's why I like this game. It's highly replayable. But yeah, that's my 2.
Nice. That's awesome. I don't think we did ever play that when I was there when we were in college, because you were talking about it, it can be complicated. But I'm glad now that there's a companion app that kind of simplifies it a little bit.
It's so much easier. So much easier.
Yeah. All right. Cory, your number 2, please.
All right. I can't believe this one made my top 2. It just does. This is the only Ameritrash game that will ever make my top 5 in the history of my top 5. And the name itself just sounds like you need to play it. It's called Blood Rage.
Oh,
yeah. And now here's the thing about this game. And I've never played a miniature game, but it's almost a miniature game, but it's not. And the thing that I like about it, like if you were to play something like Risk, it's always so straightforward. You just got to take over all the territory. But what I like about Blood Rage is it's Viking themed. So actually killing your own troops or your own troops dying can actually score you points. So I have seen people who have been absolutely completely demolished on the fighting end of things, and they still win if they make sure that they get the right quests and make sure that they actually get their troops in Valhalla, and you can win points that way. So I love the fact that you can win with so many different strategies, and yet you're still fighting it out. It's good. So that makes me
hilarious. It's like I could just imagine it's like this person at the very end. It's like they've had everything around them is burning, all their troops are dead, and it's like, and the winner is that guy.
That guy. That's right. I love it.
And I didn't understand that the first time I played it with them. And I had a raging army. I was conquering everything. I was like, I'm gonna win this game, and I lost. I was like, what?
The Vikings, you can win if you make it to Valhalla, right? So,
yeah.
Hey. Oh yeah, no,
it's thematic.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. My number 2. Kind of like what Brad said. Me. If you like Clue, you will really like this game because it is Clue. It's the original whodunit. I love like these kind of like deduction strategy. You have to ask questions and then put together puzzles kind of thing. It's the classic whodunit. It's like, okay, who did it, what they do it with, and where. And there are lots of different strategies people can use to do it. I know for me personally, I like to narrow down what it is. It's like, okay, I know this card is out here. I know this card is out there. I know this person has this card. I like to gather as much data as I can with those questions. And I haven't had a chance to play it in a long time, but I'm totally open to playing it with anyone who wants to. But no, Clue is one of my personal favorites.
My mom always wins by like turn 6, and it's irritating.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
so fast. You're like, I have like 3 clues. Like, how did you solve it?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
With all the board games, I've probably played 500 different board games, and I have never played Clue.
Really?
Never played Clue.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's an experience.
Yep. I
True.
believe it.
All right. Now we are to honorable mentions. Brad, why don't you kick off this section for us?
I had like actual board games in here, and then I realized, okay, everything in my top 5 is like a physical box, like full of all kinds of stuff that I've got to do stuff with. So I decided my honorable mentions should be some of my favorite card games or like other weird type of games. I own all of these except for one. The first one, thank you for introducing this to me, Cory. I like this game. You're going to hear this now and say, oh, he's going to want to play this anytime. And the answer is correct. Right. Skull. I really like Skull. Like, it's just such a clever, like, small game. So the point is you try to bluff and you try to guess what somebody's going to put down. When you put down, like, cards, you get it wrong, you lose one of your cards. You lose all your cards, I think you're out, right? Like, that's how that works. Yep. Okay. That's right. So it's super simple, but fun and like Day of the Dead themed. So I like it. So I'm going backwards order from like, they're all my favorites, but I still put them in backwards order. My second one is Love Letter. I hadn't played Love Letter for a long time until we had played it a while back. And I was like, I don't own Love Letter. Why do I not own Love Letter? So I went out and bought a copy. Yeah. My other one, I think we've played this too. Luke, have we played this before?
I don't think so.
We need to. So the premise of Gloom is fantastic. Whoever made this game, high five. You nailed it. Excuse me. It's a little backwards. The whole point is to kill off your whole family, and everybody plays as a family. However, you want them to have the most... Hold on. You want them to have the most miserable life ever before you kill them. However miserable they are, that's the more points you get. Now, what your opponents can do is play other cards on top of it. and make them happy, like they got married or they went on a nice vacation. Like you don't want that to happen. You don't. So you try to make them as miserable as possible, and you tell a story. Like her name is like Myrtle or whatever, and Myrtle fell down the stairs and bonked her head, and she gets like negative 15 points. You want negative points, like golf. So whenever somebody does something positive, it's positive points. It may cancel out something you've played. And they're clear cards, so you can see through what was played ahead of it, so you can see the score. It's really, there's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it. I love it being like the theater kid because it's an acting side, and I love the absolute backwards kind of way that you have to like make everyone miserable and then kill them. So Gloom had to be in my honorable mentions. I love it, but I wanted actual like tabletop games to be in my top 5. And because we're talking about card games, I have to mention my favorite card game that I've encountered for a while. Cory, thank you for this again. I got my own copy shortly afterwards. It's The Crew. It really is. It's clever. And it's not just a card like it's not just a card game. I'm trying to figure out how to describe that.
Right.
Being mission based. So here's the other tricky thing, Luke. One of the missions may be you can't talk to each other. And you have to figure out how to do like a full set without talking to each other. So you don't know who has what cards. You can't do anything. If you fail, I think, can you do like as many fails as you want? Or if you fail it so many times, you have to start over?
If you fail it, you just got to keep trying until you win. So you could try 50 times and not win a mission.
Yep. It's bonkers. But I liked it. It was really a clever concept and a really good idea. And I had to have it. So those are my honorable mentions.
Okay. Those are good. Some good picks. Those are some quality picks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cory, what are your honorable mentions?
So I've got a few here. So one that had to make the list is Mysterium.
Yeah.
So it's a cooperative game. And there is the one person who's a ghost who is giving these dreams to the people in this haunted house. And you can think of it almost like Clue, because somebody got murdered and the ghost is giving these dreams to figure out who the murderer was, what the weapon was, who the person was, and what kind of thing they used to kill him with and what room it was in. And it's cool. It's just really cool. And it's really hard to decipher, but it's a cooperative game and you're all working together. That one's a lot of fun. Had to make my list. The other one is Isle of Skye. So if you've ever played Carcassonne, this is like Isle of Skye is the good version of Carcassonne. Don't get me wrong. I think Carcassonne's okay, but this one just adds player depth to it. It adds variety. Isle of Skye is a lot like Carcassonne though. Tile-based game, a lot of fun. The other game it has to make the list is Azul. The theme sounds so weird because you're basically trying to quilt or you're trying to put these tiles down. You've got it.
There we go.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, but I thought maybe it made Game of the Year one of the years. It did? Okay. Yeah. That's just a good one. It's also a really good one for 2 players, which a lot of games just aren't made well enough for 2 players. But this is one that I can play with my wife, and we love it. So that absolutely makes the list. The other 2 that I'm just going to say real quick, I won't tell you much about it, but you just got to check it out. I put this under the category of filler games. Basically anything that's 15 minutes or less, it's a filler game. Right. It's just a game you play like while you're in the middle or whatever, waiting for people. But the 2 would be Number 9. The game is called Number 9, and the other one is called Sales.
I don't know that one.
So Google it. You have to check it out. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those are some good picks. Those are some very good picks.
I forgot about Isle of Skye, man, until you brought that up. And I was like, oh, I have played that. That's so good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right. I've got actually a few honorable mentions. The first, I think it's probably the oldest board game that has been mentioned in this episode, and that's because it goes back a long, long time. It is the real OG, chess. Just simple chess. It's a classic. It's one of the games that is easy to understand, easy to play, takes years to master, and people are still doing competitive chess to this day. And I have so much respect for people who can play a quality game of chess. It's like, kudos to you. I'm sure this man absolutely could slaughter me.
I'll give you a run for your money.
Yeah. Another one of my favorites is Risk. I do love a good game of Risk just because of the all and out craziness. And there's the ultimate game where it is better to be lucky than good, because, you know, that it's like, if the dice are against you, there's not much you can do, but, you know, there is some strategy involved. Seven Wonders is another one. I really enjoy that one. Just the art in that game is incredible. And then the different ways to win, whether it's like you decide, oh, I'm just going to become a military power and absolutely clobber everyone, or I'm going to become this scientific civilization that has all of the gadgets and gizmos and potions and all of that, or you can just choose to build monuments to yourself. It's a great game. Our family used to play that a lot, and I really enjoyed it. And one last one for me. It's a small game, doesn't take that long to play, which means you can play a lot of different rounds. There's a lot of deception involved. There's a lot of bluffing involved. It is Coup. It's a card game. Basically, you have two different cards in your hand that give you different rolls. However, you can bluff any roll you want, and your goal is to eliminate all the cards in everyone else's hands before your cards get eliminated. It is really, really fun. Just the lying and deception and the accusations are hilarious, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a really great game. All right. We are down to our gold medalists. Brad, give us your number one pick.
Well, if you've had long and beleaguered conversations with me about board games for the past 4 years now, there was a game that I played once, and I was absolutely obsessed with it. I thought it was the most clever game that has ever been created, but then I couldn't find it because it was a Kickstarter exclusive. And I searched and searched and searched and searched and searched and searched. And then they came out with a second printing of it, which sold out immediately. So I kept waiting. I kept searching. I kept hoping. I was like, come on, it's got to happen. And then finally, I went to a board game shop in Indy. They had 3 copies. I was like, I should just buy all 3 and sell the other 2. But I would have rather just had it. It's Root, guys. Oh my god! Which you were explaining Euro games, and I sat there and I was like, "Root's a Euro game."
Yeah,
Root is a Euro game because everybody's doing their own thing. You kind of interact, but it's not like you have to interact. Like you could have won the whole thing without interacting. Root, Luke, I don't think you've played with me. I haven't had it very long, and I think you've been at school for the whole time that I've had it.
You did show me the game when I was at your house at one point, but we never played it.
No, because it takes a minute to play it.
Yeah.
However, the idea is that you want to conquer the forest. There are cats, there's a bird, there are the mice people, there is a raccoon. Everyone is trying to do something different and try to find a way to conquer the forest, but you want victory points. So whether you do it or not, your victory points will determine whether you win or not. Which is what made me solidify that, this is a Euro game. Very complex, very complicated. Every single faction plays entirely different. There's nothing that is shared, but it's cute. Like there's little wooden pieces that they carve out, and I love it. It is the cutest, most extreme strategy game I've played for a while. But it's not too far that I'll never understand how to play it. It's just complex enough for those people that want that strategy game to be fun, and just enough laid back to be okay. I could come after this if I really read it for a minute and then get into it and play it a couple times, and then you get the gist of it. But I played it one time and just fell in love with it, and it's been my favorite game since.
Good.
Nice. No, it sounds like really, really fun, and I want an opportunity to play it. We just had never had time, but I'm totally open to it. All right, Cory, you're number one.
For my number one, this was a tough one for me to decide, but I chose Five Tribes. That's what it's called.
Oh.
Part of it is I learned it from the guy who created the game. His name is Bruno Cathalis, and he's French, and he was at Gen Con and taught us how to play. And what's so unique about this game is that most other games, especially European games, are typically what they call worker placement games. Basically, you've got one or two workers, you place it down, you do whatever action is on the card or the board, and then you just do it. What I love about this game is that it breaks all the molds, and it does exactly the opposite of what you would expect. So rather than being a worker placement game, it is a worker displacement game, which essentially means that you've got all of these workers on this big, huge board, and you're moving the workers. And then when you use that action, you remove the workers, and then you use those workers as your abilities. And just that little twist on that game changes the whole dynamic of the board game, and it makes you feel like you're playing something you've never played before. It is definitely my top pick. Really good game. You got to check it out.
Nice. That sounds really fun, actually. And then to wrap us up, my number one pick, I actually I got to play this game a little bit, actually for the first time, a few months ago. I had seen YouTube Let's Plays of it, and I absolutely loved just watching people play the game. But when I got to play it for myself, it was like, this is so fun. It's kind of in the realm of a coup, because there's a lot of deception involved. There's a lot of accusations hurled, and you have no idea if someone is lying to your face. It's Secret Hitler. I love Secret Hitler. Basically, you have a parliament in like Germany, and you have a bunch of liberals and a bunch of fascists. All the fascists kind of know who they are, except for Hitler. Hitler doesn't know who his teammates are, but the liberals don't know who each other are. And so it's a matter of the liberals are trying to get a bunch of liberal policies passed. The fascists are trying to get a bunch of fascist policies passed and or elect Hitler as chancellor. So it is a very, very fun game. A lot of strategy goes into it, trying to figure out, okay, who's lying, who's telling the truth, who's Hitler. Just the stress, the adrenaline, it gets your adrenaline pumping. And I really, really enjoy it. It's a really fun game. And I will never turn down a chance to play it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Random Fandom. We hope you enjoyed our top 5+ board games. Cory, thank you so much for coming on. We really, really appreciate it. And the unique titles that you were able to give to us. I'll definitely have to check out some of these. I'll actually have to watch this back and just be like, write that down. But thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you on the next episode of Random Fandom.